Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover 120 here, and you notice my Blu Ray shelf's a little empty because I'm going to show you my Blu Rays. This is going to be a three-parter. I think this is going to be a three-part episode because I have kind of a lot of them, so. But anyway, enough of my talking. I'm going to show you my whole Blu Ray collection, and it's going to be kind of a bit of a long video, but anyway, here it goes. Well. Blu-rays, I'll start with the horror film first. I have Saw on Blu-ray, and it's still one of my favorite horror films. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It was a pretty good film for what it was, and a very clever premise and everything. And Saw 2 is also pretty good. It's not as good as the first one, but Saw 2 and 3 are kind of really good sequels. No, 4 to 7 and Jigsaw are complete piles of crap, so I never really bothered watching those, but I really like the first three. So, I have Hobbits on Blu-ray. This was back when, Disney wasn't the garbage they are today. Back when they actually cared about their audiences, and it was a good way to bring back a big childhood favorite of mine, but it's a shame they went downhill when they released Most Wanted, which was basically just a merchandising cash grab, and this is very first Final SquarePants movie, and honestly, probably the only one of the SpongeBob films I actually like, and this honestly should have just closed the series to me. Yeah. And this is crazy, but this was actually the first Blu-ray I ever got. Yeah, it's just the 2010 remake of The Wolfman, and I haven't watched it in a while, but honestly, it's not a bad remake for what it is. I mean, it didn't do good at the box office, but I don't think it was as nearly terrible as the media claimed it was. Yeah, I also have Good Boys on Blu-ray. This is actually the funniest film of 2019, and definitely one of my favorite comedies in a very, very long time. And it didn't rely on just vulgar humor after vulgar humor. It actually had a few heart to the story. I'm really glad they did that for once as well. And I also have what is the true cut of Batman vs Superman, and that's the Ultimate Edition on Blu-ray, because I don't really like the theatrical version, but the director's cut is very awesome, and it's honestly should have been the true direct cut we got. Isn't it? One I just got recently, and it's Knocked Up, and I haven't watched it yet, but I'm probably gonna this weekend, because I've heard it's kind of a funny film. Yeah, and I've got mostly got admit Stommer on Blu-ray, and sure I like his Ari Aster's other film Hereditary better, but it was actually this was still a pretty solid flick, and especially you even get a good performance from Florence Pugh, so it's pretty much introduced me to her career, and I can't wait to see whatever she does make next and stars in next. And of course, I have also Steelbook of Endgame and okay, I gotta hold this right, and Infinity War on Blu-ray, and between the two, I like Infinity War better. Infinity War is also one of my favorite superhero movies of all time, and one of my favorite movies of all time in general. I also own Venom on Blu-ray, and now I like this movie much more than most people do. I mean, sure, it's not great, but it's not really. I don't think it's really trying to be, but it's just meant to be kind of just a fun little superhero flick, and plus I love Tom Hardy's performance as Venom. Is a good repair after that horrible performance from Topher Grace in Spartan 3. And I also own Deadpool 2 on Blu-ray, and of course, sure, the first one is better, but this was also still pretty good, and I really hope they get around to making Deadpool 3 at some point, because I'd be really mad if they didn't. And I have Logan on Blu-ray, and I actually consider this my favorite X-Men movie. Not gonna lie, and this honestly where X-Men should have ended, because Deadpool 2 was good, but Dark Phoenix and New Mutants were just awful, and we don't really need to talk about those. I'm definitely not gonna be buying those. There's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I think you've already seen this one in another video of mine where I rank the Spider-Man films, but it's just still a good flick. It's definitely my favorite Spider movie of all time. Then, now, of course, I also own Homecoming on Blu-ray, and but it's it's not really a great film. Like, I like Far From Home better. But, so yeah, then I have the two Punisher films. There's the 2004 Punisher and Punisher Warzone on Blu-ray, and no, I like this film better because it's better stories, but this film is better in action-wise, and, well, to be fair, I don't think you're really supposed to, I don't think you're supposed to intended to take Warzone seriously, so there's that, and, of course, Freddy vs. Jason on Blu-ray. I also like this one. This was a better crossover than Alien vs. Predator, and it was still a very fun flick. It was good seeing these two slasher killers actually come together and fight to the doom. Did like, and, well, I do, and this was, and also on this is actually a pretty decent animated flick, and for Blue Sky standards, it's actually not as bad as most of their films are, but, so with the exception of Peanuts anyways, but yeah, and also, well, the two new Jumanji films on Blu-ray, and personally, I find Next Level the better film because it's actually kind of funnier and stuff, and of course I own all the Nightmare on Elm Streets on Blu-ray, and basically it contains of all the films except for Freddy vs. Jason, of course, but the ones I mostly like are Elm Street 1, Elm Street 3, and Elm Street 4, and New Nightmare. 2, 5, and Freddy's Dead all really suck, and I really don't need to talk about them. And I also own older Star Trek films on Blu-ray. They're pretty solid film. They're actually pretty good movies, and realistically, the Wrath of Khan. Wrath of Khan to me is the good one. That's still my favorite Star Trek film. And of course, I have the only saga of Star Wars, and it's prequels, originals, and Rogue One. But you've already seen these in several videos. I don't think I need to talk about them. And of course, I have the whole Planet of the Apes reboot series, and that contains, well, really these films. But personally, I like Dawn the most. Rise is also pretty good, and War's okay. War's okay. It's not as good as the first two, but at least it was still a good way to end the trilogy. And next to my collection come my favorite Spanish movies of all time, and that's, well, Wreck. This is actually my favorite found footage horror film, and probably the only one I actually really like. I'm not a big fan of found footage movies, but this is actually the only one to actually come this close to scaring me. And then there's also Wreck 2, and, well, it's also a pretty good sequel, but it's not as good as the first one, but it's the only sequel that's really worth watching. Don't even watch Wreck 3, guys. It's a complete disgrace to the franchise, and please Wreck 3 and 4 are a complete disgrace to these films, and unfortunately I had to get the whole box set because this was the only way I could even get these two. And so yeah, that happened. Then, of course I will own this, but you've already seen it. And I do well own. I still have some stickers on this one from when I last got it, but I also own this movie. I haven't rewatched it yet, but I remember not liking it first time I watched it, but I'm probably not gonna like it first time I watched it again. But I also own Lego Movie 2, and, well, actually, now I'm gonna show the other movies I own first. First, I own this on Blu-ray. Still one of my favorite animated features ever. Lego Batman's also a really good film, and of course, and now I'll show Lego Movie 2. Well, okay, this one's not as good as Batman or Lego Movie 1, but this was still a pretty good this is also still a pretty good sequel. I own The Conjuring on Blu-ray, and it's a pretty decent jump scare flick. It was a pretty decent horror film. I do own Ted on Blu-ray, and it was a fine, funny movie back then, and, well, I also own Ted too, and, well, there were funny films back then when I was, like, in high school. I own It Chapter 2 on Blu-ray, and, well, as well, and, well, it's not really a great flick like It Chapter 1 was, but can still make it, especially with it. It's still a good way to conclude the series, at least. The only Penis movie, and this is probably the best flick Blue Sky probably ever really did, in my opinion. And on Ready Player One, it was a good little nostalgia flick. It was good little showing some good old childhood favorites actually come together. I Own Neighbors. Very good flick. In my opinion, it was pretty funny. Well, I already own these on DVD, but I'm going to show them anyway. I'm on Saw 3 on Blu Ray and Saw 6 on Blu Ray. They're actually pretty good films. Oh, wait, no. Saw 3 is a good one. Saw 6 is just really, However, it's on Blu Ray, and this was a pretty bizarre film, and it was pretty dark, pretty gruesome. Sometimes a little hardcore for what it was, and well, it was just a fine spy flick. I own The Witch on Blu Ray, one of my favorite horror films of the 2010s. I don't get why it's not talked about so much. A lot of people don't even like A24, but I actually like their films because they rely more on tension and don't rely on jump scares all the time. I own Fight Club on Blu Ray, and well, this is actually another one of my favorite flicks. It's even one of my favorite David Fincher films of all time. Like, David Fincher's a master in filmmaking. And First Blood Part 2 on Blu Ray. Well, I do own 4 and 5 on DVD, but they're not Blu-rays. I like First Blood. I like First Blood Part 1 better, but this was actually still a pretty fun sequel, in my opinion. I don't own Rambo 3 because, well, yeah, it's a complete pile of crap. And of course, I own Call of Chucky on Blu Ray, and well, now I prefer that Curse of Chucky is the better of these two direct DVD films, but it's better than Seed of Chucky, which really sucks. And, I own Train Spotting 2 on Blu Ray. I haven't watched it in like years, but I remember the first one definitely being better. Like, the first one is another one of my favorite movies, but this was actually still a good sequel. Of course, and then of course, I also own Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Deathly Hallows Part 2 on Blu Ray. You've already seen my franchise ranking, but I like Deathly Hallows Part 2 the most. It brings the franchise close to a circle, and yeah. And this is gonna be ridiculous, but I do own all the Resident Evils on Blu Ray. And yeah, they are not good movies in any way, but they're just fun to make fun of how bad they are, really. They're not even faithful to the games. I do own Ocean's 8 on Blu Ray. Well, I don't think it's, well, bad, most bad like many people try to call it, but it's still a pretty good heist flick, and I'm glad it wasn't just a full-on reboot and somewhat of a continuation of the original series. And I own Incredibles 2, probably the only Pixar sequel I really love. Oh yeah, and I own Black Swan. This is my second favorite Darren Aronofsky film next to Requiem for a Dream. And I actually love Darren Aronofsky in general. He's a master of filmmaking, He actually knows how to really well direct most movies like most people do, and yeah. I will rewatch it at some point, eventually. Of course, and I do own this crazy flick. Like, it's a good little, I know I'm showing Christmas Blu-ray, but it's a good little, funny little Christmas special. And very much the funny out of most of the modern SpongeBob stuff. And, well, yeah. So anyway, guys, that's all my Blu-rays. Thank y'all for watching this video, and if you like this one some more, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Movie Lover 100.